Hey there, and welcome back to the mini weekend. I'm your host, Jack. Let's just get into it, Mini. Gosh, I was actually just thinking about this. I didn't even mention this before we got on. I don't know that I've had a Budweiser Zero on the podcast, but that's what I got tonight. What did you say you were drinking again?
Yeah, this is a Fulton hard seltzer watermelon. Pretty tasty. I mean, kind of tastes like a little bit like a White Claw in a way, but better than those thick lager beers. This is kind of a more chill, refreshing type of drink.
No kidding. I mean, I don't know about you, but like back when I was drinking, as much as I loved beer, as soon as those seltzers came out, it was just hard for me not to have the seltzers. Like they don't fill you up as quickly. They don't you don't bloat through them. And truthfully, they have more flavor and they taste better. Like why
Yeah,
would that kind of stuff,
you don't get
right?
the grainy type of taste that somehow we grew accustomed to, but it's
Right.
a new
Well,
wave.
hey, and honestly, like I get it. I'm not drinking anymore, but like I know and I think back to the college days, there's nothing better than the taste of a Budweiser when you're watching a football game or anything like that. But at the same time, it's like if you know you're gonna have 5 or 6 of them, why would you fill up on 5, 6 beers when you can do that with seltzers?
It's all good. We're getting older, Jack. We're getting
Amen.
older.
Well, we're here, my friend. We're here. College football has officially gotten underway, and NFL football is upon us tomorrow.
It's NFL Eve.
Gosh, so excited. I guess I feel bad always doing the filler words and shit like that, but
Well,
week one
last Thursday we had the Gophers against North Carolina.
we did, yeah. So I was gonna
Yeah.
say, how about two quick questions for you? So first part, what was your biggest takeaway from college football as a whole? Any specific game, week 0 to week 1, and what was your biggest takeaway from the Gophers loss?
The biggest takeaway is so people are saying either it's Max Brosmer, like there's some people that say Brosmer, other people say Brosmer.
Hmm.
So obviously it's going to take a little adjusting to get used to, the play calling and the rhythm of the offense. There were some things that were good. I mean, I did see some flashes that Brosmer was doing with those play actions. Like I thought those were
Hmm.
handled very well, but the execution from the wide receivers was just awful.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Elijah Spencer couldn't catch the ball. The only thing the Gophers really had going for them is when Bros would throw a deep ball and it would be Daniel Jackson, flying down the sideline and he'd get interfered with, and then we get spot foul first and 10, but there was just no
it's actually not a
like
spot call in college, and I didn't realize that until watching college football this
right,
last week.
and then it goes back. It just goes 15 yards. Then
Yeah,
um, I don't know. They just came out. They came out flat, and then with Kesich missing 2 field goals, that especially at the very end, wide right, it's just like you can't make it, you can't make it up. You know,
right.
they had what it took to win the football game. It's what, like PJ Fleck would say, they just didn't execute.
Right. No, and yeah, I have to say, being, and I love it. I don't say it in a mean way, but you being the eternal optimist, it was those games like when like after doing the game by game, those are the tough games to swallow because like you alluded to, we were
Yeah,
right
I
there.
mean,
You miss like he missed 2 field goals. Even if he makes 1 field goal, it makes it completely different. But I think, for me, I had them losing this game, and
yeah, I would imagine most
I
people did too.
and truthfully, I'm not as much as it turned into kind of a typical Gopher game where this crap, what's his name, the Marcus Major. Like if Marcus
He
Major
was
stays healthy,
he
but
was
to
looking good.
a
He was.
1-2 punch of him and Darius Taylor can be lethal. But once again, because our wide receivers minus Daniel Jackson couldn't really get much, if anything, going,
Mm-mm.
we relied heavily on that running game. So again, first game of the season, we didn't look terrible. I thought UNC going into the game was going to be the better team. And we didn't look all that much worse than them. There were, a couple simple things like, the field goal stuff like we talked about. And it
Elijah
seemed,
Spencer catching, missing some catches, and Christian Driver showed little glimpses. I think he's a transfer out of like Georgia Southern or something like that. But
yeah,
that's Donald Driver's.
yeah, yeah. So it'll
Hmm.
be interesting to see if a guy like him, can, you know, have a short memory, um, let this game, sink in and, learn from the things you did, but go out and continue to do your things. Cause obviously, like you said, Donald Driver's son, like the genes are there. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
going,
we just didn't have enough big plays. I mean, I really thought that
and it
interception by
didn't,
that Justin Wally interception. I thought that was going to change the whole complexion of the game. I mean, he went 70 yards down, but then Achilles' heels was the penalties. We had another big play that North
yeah,
Carolina fumbled the football. We recovered, penalty. So it's just like we're close, but close doesn't win you football games. And to go to try to be 10-2, I don't know, but
right. Well, and I mean, it was
we got Rhode Island at least on Saturday. So let's see if we can take the water out of the boat.
right. Well, and I mean, again, it's game one. You try not to read into it too, but looking at the box score here, it's tough to gain that momentum in game when you have such a slow start. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, first play of the game, first drive, we got the ball first, 3 and out. Second drive, 3 and out.
It was
Third drive,
it was like
13
pass,
to,
run, pass, punt, penalty. I think
and then
there
third
was a
drive.
penalty on that punt.
Yeah, and then third drive, you go 13 plays, 52 yards. You think you're going to do missed field goal. Fourth, 3 and out. So, I mean, you weren't able to really get much done in the first quarter. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there's a lot of question marks going into the season as far as, what's Darius, was
What's
Darius
his
going to be
what's his
healthy?
status? Is he gonna be
Exactly.
healthy this year?
If he's not going to be healthy, who's going to take those steps? And it was a relief to see, and I'm sure PJ Fleck felt this way too. It was a relief to see that, okay, if he doesn't stay healthy, we got him and we got this, Marcus Major, like this
Yeah,
1-2
the
punch
veteran from
should be good.
Oklahoma.
But yeah, again, you kind of hope, because again, I know you talk about, drops and stuff like that, but I can't help but think, um, if those guys just caught 2,
Just do
maybe 3
better.
more passes. Max
Yeah.
Brosmer is probably being talked about a little bit more within the Big Ten circles and looks that much better because, like I said, I said it, in the football preview. I said it a little bit when you were kind of dissecting game by game a couple weeks ago. I really think this season will be dictated by how well this pass game plays out. If the pass game plays
Yeah.
out like has the ability to, I still losing this game 10
Yeah.
and 2 very doable. Are they going
I
to
hope so.
be able to are they gonna be able to continue to do it week over week and continuing to prove? I hope so, but we're just gonna have to wait and see.
Right. And I mean to limit North Carolina to field goals in the second
No
half.
doubt.
I mean they didn't score. They scored a touchdown in the second quarter, and then they hadn't scored. All they did was kick field goals, and it came down to that. It came down to field goal kicking. And what's really funny, and insult to injury. So we're gonna kind of sidetrack from the Gopher game. Did you see the USC LSU game?
I got highlights. One of my we'll get into it when we're done kinda talking about this, but that was one of my, 3 games I picked, last week that hit. So, did see it, yeah.
Do you know who the field goal kicker is for USC?
Oh my gosh.
The former Gopher, Michael
Yeah,
Lance,
Lance, that's right.
former Gopher. So it's just like, why don't he was able to make two big
Unbelievable.
field goals. They were playing in Las Vegas, and it seemed like
Right?
he was fine. But USC had a really big victory over LSU. So I mean, they're no
Yeah.
longer the Pac-12 anymore, Pac-10 or Pac-25 or whatever it used to be. But they're now in the
Right.
Big
Yeah,
Ten, so
they're
that's chalk one up for the Big Ten. I always like when a Big Ten beats a SEC team, but just a little
no
bit different with
as
USC
long as
here.
it's not Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, or Ohio State. But
I know it's you know what I mean.
no, and
But
I mean, you bring up a great point. I mean, this is a Carolina Tar Heel that this team is really kind of changing the narrative of their school for decades and decades and decades. They've very much been a basketball school.
yeah,
This is a team you go back. I mean, I'm looking it up here. You go all the way back to, 2020, and this is a team that's finished in the top third of the ACC year after year after year after year. So exactly what you talked about, being able to hold, this team to 19 points, and like you said, only field goals in the second
yeah.
half.
And it used to be like over the last few years, it's been like quarterback university. Mitchell Trubisky,
Yeah,
Sam Howell, Drake May. So
yeah, the list goes on.
it's really unfortunate with Max Johnson that ended up ending the season with
Wow.
the broken leg. So he's out for the season. I thought it was an ACL injury, but yeah, I don't know what's worse, a broken leg or an ACL injury. Either both of them are brutal,
That's a good question.
but
Good question.
but scientifically, isn't it better to recover from a broken leg than a torn ACL? I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but hope he recovers. He was talented. I mean, he showed some signs against the Gophers, showed some poise, and just the unfortunate deal to happen. So, but North Carolina should be all right. I think they look like they're going to win about 8 or 9 games this season.
Yeah, no, with Johnson, they had the ability to finish, atop the ACC, but without him, probably if
I don't know.
nothing
We'll
else,
see what their backup does, but and also they have one of the best running backs in the nation too, as well.
that guy was a stud. Like just when you thought that Marcus Major was getting stuff going, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But dude, that guy was just running us over.
It was brutal. It was Omari and Hampton. Yeah, Omari and Hampton. It was
Mhm.
the
Dude, if
kid's
that
name.
guy
So
continues to play that way, both him and Travis Hunter at the very least will be Heisman finalists.
no, it's gonna be fun. And Colorado squeezed it out against North Dakota State. That was one of those games where it was like you.
Oh,
I think you said that North Dakota State might have a shot at pulling it off, and yeah, no doubt about it. But Colorado was able
yeah,
to get that victory.
they were. And on that topic, we'll get into for you guys college football picks. We were kind of talking about this before you got on here. Sam has some good picks for you guys tonight, but before we get into those, bless you. Two of
No,
our
this is
three picks for you guys.
we're good. Listen,
Two of
Caesar,
our
you're good.
three picks for you guys cashed in last week. So the first one in the first game of the season saw the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets win outright over Florida State. I have to say, my biggest takeaway, going back to my question to you, my biggest takeaway from this, I figured Georgia Tech would probably beat FSU, and FSU, it was going to be, oh man, it was tough. But I figured they were going to definitely rebound, beat Boston College handily, and probably find themselves going into week two somewhere between 12 and
We'll
18 or
see.
something like that. They got,
Yeah.
excuse my language, they got their asses kicked. I understand the score wasn't super close, or the score was pretty close. That Florida State on paper had no reason playing um playing Boston College that close. So my biggest takeaway was, I mean, you hate to say it because there's still, for them, they've already played 2 games. They got 10 games
I
left
was
for 11.
surprised with Boston College.
I think their season's done. Their college football hopes are dead in the water. And the big reason I say this is because at this point, they already need help. They play one, two, three. I can't remember who they are, but
Florida, Miami.
they currently right
I think
now
they
have
played
4
Notre
teams
Dame.
on their schedule that are in the top 25. So their only hope is that those 4 teams are higher when they play them than they are now, that they beat all of them, and that some of the teams in the ACC lose. Like you can't. I'm sorry. Boston College is a good. Like they've been kind of a middle of the road, kind of that weird kind of team, but it's hard to rebound off of a loss to Boston College.
The ACC is a little bit weird now too, because isn't Stanford in the ACC now?
Yeah, and Stanford's supposed to be good this year, like really good.
Stanford, and then who's the is it Utah? Who's the other team that joined the? See, I'm still trying to catch up, and I'm sure everybody else is of these conferences, and it's just like it's hard to keep up with
Right. No, so
who was
ACC,
playing
ACC, you got Boston College, Cal, Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Georgia
Cal.
Tech, Louisville, Miami, NC State, North Carolina, Pitt, SMU,
There's like
Mustang,
25 teams in the ACC.
yeah, and Stanford. Yeah, SMU, and Stanford, I think, are the two big additions to the ACC.
That's
And
insane.
Cal.
That's insane. Bring it back
Yeah,
to the
I mean,
glory days,
you got
man.
Clemson's supposed to be good. Miami's supposed to be good this year. Pittsburgh, I don't think is supposed to be awful. Stanford's supposed to be good. Virginia Tech is always pretty solid. And on top of all that, um, Florida State has a Notre Dame on their schedule, who
Right. Yeah.
I think is supposed to be
So
extremely
so
good
they're
this year.
they're in for some trouble, but that's a packed ACC conference.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
so
Louisville's good. Yeah, it's
right.
I don't. Yeah, there's too much going on for an ADD guy like me seeing that conference. Way too much going on. So
Right. I
it's
think
gonna
these
be it's gonna be interesting for like tiebreakers and such towards the end of the season. You'll have 10
yeah,
teams in like the top like three, and then you'll have the scenarios of how to make it into the conference championship and on. So there's gonna be it's gonna get in. It'll be interesting for sure.
right. No doubt. And yeah, I have my opinions on the whole thing. I think the NCAA should have just given, middle fingers to all these teams trying to move. Like, I get it's a money grab. I get everything's about money, but it's like, look, like
But with social media with these days, and you can promote stuff, it's just like
it's just
I
like
don't know.
at what point do we protect the integrity of the game? Like, there's like stay in your conferences because like now
Yeah,
this year the Pac-12 is still a thing, but there's only two teams in the Pac-12, so that conference is
they're
essentially not.
independent. So it's Washington State and Oregon State, and apparently they were supposed to join the Mountain West in 2025, but I guess there's some type of grievance going on where they're not going to be admitted into the Mountain West, so they're going to be having another year next year as independents.
It's a joke, but we
It's
digress.
something. It's something.
Right.
We went on that tangent last week, so we're good.
Oh, you're totally good. So yeah, no. So our Georgia Tech pick for you guys worked out perfectly. Not only did they cover, but they won outright. The middle leg fell short of starting the season off a perfect 3 for 3. Yes, the Colorado Buffaloes did in fact hold off the NDSU Bison despite a 3-point deficit at half, which I thought Colorado was going to sweep the floor with these guys. But holy shit, like I
Don't
mentioned,
tell out the
Travis,
Bison.
that guy had a game for the ages. Did you watch that game? I watched that game. This dude on 7 catches went for 132 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 tackles on the defensive side of the ball. That
Yeah,
guy's just,
to play both places is tough.
yeah,
Nobody did it better than Charles Woodson in '97 with the Michigan Wolverines.
right.
He won the
Um,
Heisman over Peyton Manning, and people were pissed. But
yeah,
you play both sides of the ball, and
right. That's right.
yeah,
Forgot about that year. But yeah, nonetheless, the Buffaloes ended up winning that. It was just a 5-point win, but we needed them to win by at least 10 to cover their -9. But then the 3 nights ago, the Trojans and LSU Tigers finished with a combined 47 points, staying well under the 63.5 points we thought they would. And then lastly, before Sam hits you with his locks, they're going to end this week.
yeah.
We do need to remind you guys. I don't think I've told you this yet, but I've been doing this since I've been doing these picks. Myself and Sam are not financial advisors. We are not liable for any losses. Just like any winnings, we will not come after them. Everything we tell you guys is
Thoughts are
our
my own. Thoughts are my
yep,
own.
thoughts, opinions. So with that, Mr. Puppy, what do you got for us this week for college
All
football
right.
bet?
Well, so we'll start it off with the Texas Michigan game.
Okay.
We got a new head coach over in Michigan, new quarterback, but Texas, number 3 in the country.
They
I don't
are.
know.
Matthew McConaughey
I'm
over
just
there.
going, I'm just going straight bets. I got Texas over Michigan.
Okay.
I mean, if you were to say a score, I think Texas is just going to manhandle Michigan. We're
Are
going to be
you
looking at
oh
the
no, I was just gonna
Horns.
say you go Horns. Are you just taking the money line or I didn't even look what's the do you know what the spread is on that one or are you just
I
taking
think it was like 3.5 for Texas or something like that. But I know Texas was favored by a little bit, from my understanding. But I just go see. I think too much when we talk about like point spreads. But if it's
yeah,
something like if somebody's like 17 points, they have 17 points. For example, if you're like the Gophers against like Penn State, for example, that might be a deal where if we're 3-4 heading into actually I think it's at home, but if Penn State comes, we're probably not favored. We're probably going to, have us down 14 points. I'd still pick the Gophers. I'd pick the
yeah.
Gophers on the under that.
No,
Anyway, so
and truthfully, the reality is like different people have different confidence levels with regards to
yeah,
sports betting
different
too.
strokes for different folks.
Exactly. So for me, you guys get, a lot of, the spread stuff. I think this year you're gonna find me probably dabbling more now that I've kind of got more into it and all that kind of stuff. You'll see me kind
It's
of
not
doing
our
more.
fault because sports betting is a lingo in Minnesota.
Yeah, yes and technically,
Legalize it.
yes and no. We can
Fully.
technically place prop bets.
You can,
Um,
but
but
you can't.
if you
But you can't do like you pick Texas over Michigan. You can't
no,
do that.
no, and yeah, exactly. But we don't need to get down that rabbit hole because
Vote
we
early and vote often, friends.
no, amen, amen. So no, I
You
like
can't
that.
vote
So
often.
money line Texas over Michigan. It's funny you brought that game up because I actually got that game on my slip this week
Um,
for him. So, how many more games you got for him, Mister Pup?
I got you know what? NC State against Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Ooh,
I think that's going to be a good one. I think Tennessee's ranked number 13 and NC State is
yeah,
number 23. NC
yeah,
State is surprisingly sneaky good. I think they'll pull off the upset over Tennessee.
I like that. You said Tennessee's like 13 or something.
Yeah, I think they're 13th in the country.
Holy
It wasn't
crap,
last year
that's
that they beat Alabama, but it was I think the year before. But
I like it. That's 14. I like it. That's a good pick. Hey, if there's nothing I like more, it's somebody like you, anybody on this podcast, talking on the streets, talking about an upset bet that they like with conviction. And if you like NC State, man, how the mighty have fallen if that comes true. That you
yeah,
heard it here first.
give for the world. Now my third one. You love Georgia Tech. Well,
Mm.
they're playing the Syracuse Orange.
Oh, that's right.
Syracuse likes to show up every once in a while and all of a sudden just like surprise people.
At weird moments, yes.
At weird moments, Georgia Tech is now they're ranked. I think Syracuse will knock them off. So let's give those 3 picks a whirl and see what we do and
Gosh.
talk about it next week.
I like that. Holy crap. Wow. That's if what I've said, if what you've said all come true, this ACC is gonna be in for a long season. It's gonna come down to the wire, it sounded like.
How I can't even count. There's like 20 teams in the ACC. It's
Yeah,
it's,
no, I
it's too
don't
much,
I don't get it either. But well, hey,
but it's fun.
I
It's
like
for the
that
memories.
picks. Hey, exactly. And like I said too, there's you know, you could have the weirdest things out there, but if you're talking like with, conviction, if you're like all for these picks, hell yeah, dude. I
Yeah,
like
I
it.
mean, I was going over, and you could have picked your, you know, Monmouth states against, you know, Alabama, but you're not going to pick those ones. I mean,
Right.
it's like,
No, and truthfully, I don't
you
really
gotta pick the fun. You gotta pick the fun ones. You gotta just, wing it,
no
go with your
doubt.
gut, and see what happens. So just like
No
with the
doubt. I
Gophers
don't
being 10 and
usually
2, go with that gut. But
yeah,
it is
well,
what it
and
is.
honestly, like before I get into my bet slip for you guys too, I'm right there with you. Like I don't really like to bet on the Georgias, the Alabamas, like the powerhouses, unless it's two kind of powerhouses going head to head.
Yeah,
Because what's the fun in placing $100 bet on Alabama to win $30? Like,
$5. Like
yeah,
$5. It's not fun.
there's not like I'm more of a low risk, high reward guy.
Right.
But like you said, different strokes for
Put a
different folks.
$5 bet in, win $100. That's the way to go.
Exactly. Parlay that bitch.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right, week 2, I like your picks. For me, you guys are going to get my first one. I actually like Oklahoma State 7.5 point favorites over Arkansas Razorbacks. This game will be at home for the Pokes, and they're coming off a very commanding 44-20
Convincing.
victory over South Dakota State. I think between running back Ole Gordon and Alan Bowman, there's just too much experience for this Razorback team to take on. I mean, shit, Ole Gordon by himself ran for 126 yards and 3 TDs on just 28 carries. I expect this to easily be a double-digit game. For the Pokes, my second leg, very similar to Puppy, I like this Texas-Michigan game, but I'm going in a different route. I like the under 40. It was 45 points when I first kind of wrote this stuff down, but it's actually moved to 42.5. I'm not moving away. I still like the under. I really think in the big, like, this is going to be a home game for Michigan State or Michigan, excuse me, Michigan State.
Yeah. Don't piss them
This
off.
game is going to be in
Don't
the
piss
big
off
one,
Chris Castellani.
right? And I think this is going
Shout
to
out.
be a defensive battle. I know the Texas offense looked very good last week, just like Michigan did, but it's also true that both of these teams have elite defenses. There's a reason they're both ranked very high in the nation right now. I expect this to be a close game with not a ton of offense, which I think if you're watching college football, occasionally you like games like that because so many games you watch, the finals are 70-63 and there's no defense
52, 45, 49, 35.
battle. So to be able to see kind of a defensive battle, I like. And then
I don't know,
third pick,
man. I think you might have to see that during Big Ten play. I don't, but your
right?
thoughts are your thoughts.
Amen. And then last one for you guys. I like Illinois underdogs 5.5 points over Kansas.
I was looking at that game too.
Very similar. This will be a home game for the Fighting Illini. Once it's very similar to the last game. Illinois is coming off a dominant win over Eastern Illinois. They're going to have their swagger about them. I know Kansas is coming off a big win too, but I don't know. Watching these highlights, I kind of watched a lot of highlights other than the Gopher and Tommy games. I didn't watch a ton of games. I watched a ton of highlights throughout these teams.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the highlights for that Illinois game, it kind of makes me scared a little bit for the Gophers because it just seems like there's something going on with that team that they just haven't had these last couple of years. Doesn't mean they're going to be consistent with it all year long, but coming off of
The Gophers should have won that game last year.
a game where you
Should have won
won
that game.
convincingly against an in-state opponent, I think they're coming into this game, and I think even if they don't, again, they're 5.5 point underdogs. So I think even if they don't win it outright, I think 5.5 points is a little bit too much. I expect them to lose by no more than 4 points if they don't win it outright.
You don't think Kansas is going to make some noise in the Big 12 this year?
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a. I don't.
I feel like they've been knocking on the door the last couple of years, from basement doormat to being competitive at least. So
exactly.
that'll be a good game, Kansas versus Illinois. That's going to be we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It will be. And then, so wrapping up the picks for you guys, $100 bet on those 3 parlays for me would win you $596.84, $10 to win $59.68, and $1 to win $5.97.
Hey, let's get rich.
Right, but hey,
that's funny. Yeah, I mean, chip in a chair. If you got a little change in your pocket, why not make some bets this season?
Yeah,
why not?
No, exactly. And like I've talked about on this podcast before too, like everybody, like different strokes for different folks, like we talked about. Go with what is comfortable for you. A lot of the times, a lot of these bets, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I don't bet $100 very often, if at all. I'm very much somebody who's going to try turning $1 or $5 into $100 or something like that. That like shit. It was back in 21 or 22. I placed a $1 bet on the first day of March Madness, and I picked most of the favorites and a couple underdogs. So $1 on 16 teams. If every single one of those picks would have hit, I would have won. I think it was 15 grand or something like that.
Go on
16
vacation.
games. 16 games. First 14 hit.
For $1 bet, you get 16
First
correct.
14 hit, Sam Puppy. The 15th game doesn't by that much. Last game hit. I was one effing game. And again, I know, but and again, it sucks, but it's
Yeah,
one of
that's the
those
thing
things. It's
about
like low
gambling, and
risk,
that's why they have
high
those
reward.
disclaimers. So,
Exactly, low risk, high reward. If you
but
have
it's
the
fun.
money, you're gonna, before we move on to the NFL, you're gonna get a kick out of this. My dad doesn't mind, placing some money here and there, but he had a Uncle Jimmy that used to say, "I hope I break even because I could use the money."
Right,
I mean, you can't. There's and if you have, obviously, we haven't really talked about this, but if you have gambling problems, reach out. There's numerous
have
sources.
somebody do the betting for you.
Gamble responsibly. Like I said, know your finances, know your situation, and don't get too
At
crazy.
the end of the day,
You have
Jack,
some
does
fun,
anybody know what their finances are?
right?
We're heading into some troubled waters.
But yeah, like I said,
Jake,
there's
go
another
responsibly.
league, football league, starting up tomorrow night. Sam, do you know anything about that?
Rumor has it, team black and what are the colors? Black and purple against the red and white. Apparently, one of them was a defending Super Bowl champion against Ray Lewis's old squad. They have So you have the Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, against the MVP-led Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens. First game of the season. Kansas City's known to have letdowns. I think they lost their first game last year because they played the Detroit Lions. Will we see something similar? I don't know. I think Kansas City will actually be ready to play, but regardless, Baltimore's good. I think their defense is sharp, and Lamar Jackson is something else. Rashad Bateman. Hopefully, they're kind of getting him kind of better looks. I don't think he'll be the number one receiver, but I think he'll easily slide into the number 2 spot. But we'll just see what happens. I see Baltimore getting to the playoffs, Kansas City getting to the playoffs. So we got 2 playoff teams for week 1, and welcome back football.
No doubt. No, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say everybody's looking forward to the Kansas City Ravens game. If nothing else, for the fact that football's back. I know a lot of people, similar to myself, are kind of sick of the Kansas City Chiefs. But hey, football's back. It'll be a fun game, which leads me kind of into my first NFL question for you. Outside of the Vikings game and, maybe tomorrow night's game too, what game are you looking forward to watch the most?
I mean, the Green Bay Philadelphia game in Sao Paulo, Brazil. That's
Think anybody's gonna die that
and that's
game?
on a Friday. What?
Now that we're doing video podcasts, I don't know that we should say that, but
No, you
like,
might need to. Just kidding.
what is the NFL thinking? Like sending 2 teams that primary's colors are green. Like I don't know if it's a rumor or what, but I heard one of somebody saying the Packers were gonna wear freaking bulletproof vests under there.
Yeah, what was the deal about the colors? Like something about the
So
colors was.
there's something about I can't remember the name of the stadium they're playing in, but long story short, the stadium they're playing in, let's say, they're the Falcons. Okay, the Falcons, they have an arch rival that are, let's just call them the Green Gladiators. Well, they're green. So apparently in Spain, they're like these arch
Gotcha.
rivals are just like there's like gang stuff related to it.
Yeah.
So apparently this stadium is notorious for you, whether you're rooting for a team that has green on it or not. They recommend you not wearing green because there's a chance you're going to get jumped. You're gonna something's going to happen to you, and the NFL is just like, hey, watch this. We're gonna send our two greenest teams to
No,
play in this.
we're gonna bring unity. We're gonna bring unity down to Sao Paulo. So we're But anyway, that's beside the point. That'll be an excellent game. The other one would be the Jaguars against the Dolphins. Got ATN against Shane. You got Trevor Lawrence against Hatua.
And no, those are some good games. I think, gosh, I didn't even think about those two games. But I think about those two games, like for me, Packers versus Eagles. I think everybody anticipates the Eagles at least doing what they did last year, 11-6. But I think this will be a good test for the Packers to kind of see, hey, are we going to get better from last year,
There'll be a
or is
temperature
last year?
check for sure with Jordan Love's big
Yeah,
contract extension because
yeah.
a lot of Viking fans were a little upset about that.
I wasn't so much. I don't know if I speak for Vikings fans. I don't know that I'd say upset. I was certainly shocked. Like don't get me wrong, he played well,
They just
and
want
in the
more consistency. You need like two, three,
no
four
doubt, no
years of consistent play, and one year is not gonna make a career. So I can understand how there's
exactly.
a little bit backlash, but you know, Jordan Love was more poised than I thought he would be last season. Like that, Green Bay wasn't even supposed to make the postseason. Like Aaron
No, they
Rodgers leaves, and then Jordan Love takes over, and people are questionable on him, and he ends up having a pretty solid season. And here we are. And now they added Josh Jacobs too as well, running back after getting rid of Aaron Jones. I don't know. It'll be interesting between Minnesota and Green Bay of how those two teams play out in the season.
no doubt. No, and I like that second game you brought up, the Jaguars and
And
Dolphins.
Dolphins.
I think that one, because I think that game is going to depend on how quickly Doug Peterson gets himself in the hot seat. I got nothing against the guy. I know my brother-in-law loves him because he won the Eagles Super Bowl, but my gripe with Doug Peterson currently is that Jaguars team. You got ETN, you got all these wide
T-Law.
receivers. Yeah, you got Lawrence, and you have a solid defense. You got so much talent.
Right.
You have
I
to be,
mean,
at the very least, you have to be a perennial playoff team with that team. And if you're not, somebody else has got to come in and just get it done. So it'll
they
be
have
interesting.
that new wide receiver. It's like Brian Thomas Jr. I guess
Yeah,
that's
a
a guy to
stud.
watch out for.
Yeah, he's going to be a stud.
But
He's fast,
otherwise, they have
runner.
Christian Kirk.
Uh-huh. I
He's been
like
on my fantasy team. I don't know if he's digressed from just like poor fantasy management, but I think he's actually put up pretty solid points fantasy wise too over the last like 8 games last season. And then you got Evan Ingram too as well. He's a good tight end, and it really just obviously comes down to the defense. So
Yeah, and I
I don't
think the
know.
defense is pretty decent too. I mean, it's just a matter of winning games and playing to your. I think I've said this for so many years. This is very much a quarterback centric league. If you don't have a household quarterback, get one. And the Jaguars do, but I think for some of these coaches, they don't understand. Okay, if your system's not working, you have to find a way to play to your quarterback's strengths. And I
Yeah,
think that might be part of the issue down there, truthfully.
but we'll see how Brian Thomas plays though. I drafted him in one of my fantasy leagues, so we'll see what happens.
I like it.
But Miami has that firepower offense. I mean, they scored 70 against Denver last season. So who knows what old Mikey McDaniel's has up his sleeve.
Dude, every single time I see him, I'm just like, what is this?
You
Did you
know,
something like
playing
he's so
some
good. I mean
offense.
it in such a nice and like cool way, but I'm just like, what is going on? Like, what?
How are you an NFL coach? Oh yeah, I get it. You have a
But
high
hey,
powered
the dude's
offense.
smart. He's again, that's another coach of, he hasn't really gotten over the hump of winning playoff games, but that's a coach
Yeah.
that he plays to Chan, he plays to Mo Sturts, he plays to Tyreek Hill, he plays to Tua's strengths. You
Hmm.
know, I think what, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think what separates good from great coaches is great coaches are able to play to their top players'
Yeah,
strengths, whereas good coaches have good
defensive, offensive coordinators that do the work
yeah,
for them.
they kind of have this scheme and they want to run the specific scheme
Mm,
regardless of who they have, which sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but
yeah,
yeah,
it'll be fun. I mean, I'm excited for week one. To cap off week one is the San Francisco 49ers against the New York Jets, and Aaron Rodgers gets his redo, I guess. That'll be an interesting game, Monday Night Football. So
yeah,
that'll cap off week one.
that will cap off week one. I'm very interested to watch that game. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to the football preview that I did last week. I think this is Rogers last year.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he's good enough that for those that did listen, you'll get this. But if you haven't listened to the preview, I would advise go listen to that and then come back. Spoiler alert. Like he very talented. It's kind of like betting. It's like betting against LeBron or Kobe before they're done. Like it's hard to bet against them because the talent's there. You've seen it time and time again, over and over again.
I like A-Raj, but I know. You know what I would like to see? Sorry to cut you off, but it's kind of
No,
like a prediction what I see. The Jets are
no.
going to they're going to go like 11-6, go to the AFC title game. They'll match up against, let's say, Kansas City. They're going to play Kansas City. It's, you know, um, Rodgers has been getting rocked by the defense, and then they go inside the 50. They're driving within, 40 seconds left to play. Rodgers drops back to pass, and he rolls out, and he throws across his body, and Kansas City picks it up and gets into field goal range to win the game. So it's going to.
It's interesting to
Sorry to
hear
bring
you.
back flashbacks of 2009.
No, it's interesting you bring that up because Greeny on ESPN was recently quoted a couple days ago saying that the New York Jets of all team are the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC. And again, look, I admire bold predictions. I personally think that's a crack of horseshit.
Yeah, I mean the Jets have a really good defense, but it comes down to their offense, and
Exactly. It comes
I
down
don't.
to, what Aaron Rodgers are we going to get? Is he going to stay healthy? Again, this is a guy that's 40 years old and coming off of an Achilles injury. So we're just going to have to wait until the end of week one to see how it goes. But
Yeah, that's why he won't be as mobile. So when he drops back to pass and rolls out, he's gonna throw across his body.
so before we,
He doesn't do that often. That was a Brett Favre type of move,
right.
but
Uh,
they come from the same tree.
yeah.
You
So,
know,
and before we kind of get into kind of breaking down the Vikings game, looking ahead to that and our picks for the NFL, I did get a question this week, and I'm curious about your answer to it. So I'm going to read it off to you, and I want you to answer Ashley.
all right.
Ashley wants to know if Sam Darnold brings this Minnesota Vikings team to the Super Bowl, what do you do at the quarterback position after this year? Mr. Pup, you take it away.
But before you figure that out, you build him a statue right in front of US Bank Stadium.
That's a great point. That is a great point.
What do you do? Like, what kind of question is it? No, I'm not criticizing, but legitimately, that's the first thing you do. Vikings win a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. Easy, a statue.
No, but I
But
see what you're saying. I think she's talking about like what do you do at the quarterback position?
yeah,
Would
like, do you trade? You end up trading JJ McCarthy and then end up getting like a first round pick or draft picks.
I'm curious what you think. Like if you were Quicey, if you were KOC, I'm not saying he wins a Super Bowl. If he brings us to the Super Bowl this year, Ashley, and now I am very curious. I have my answer and I can give a short answer after you're done. But if he brings us to the Super Bowl, are you okay saying, "Hey, thanks for your year. See ya"? Do you
I'm
try
cool
to
with that.
resign me? Like, what
I
do you
am.
like?
I am
What
cool
would
with
you do?
that. Yeah, because I mean he'll have a lot of his value is going to skyrocket too as well. Like
Yeah.
he's only signed, was it a 1 year deal or a 2 year deal?
I just double checked it because I thought he signed a 2-year deal with a second year a player or team option, but it's only a 1-year deal at 10 mil.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a great question, but then you just kind of look at the Carson Wentz Nick Foles deal back in 2017, 2018. Carson Wentz was the starting quarterback, went down, and Nick Foles took
Yeah.
over, led them to the championship. And I want to say Carson Wentz was then again the starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know what track Carson Wentz went down. So, do the Vikings want to make that same type of mistake? But regardless, it wouldn't be a mistake anyway because the Vikings were talking about them making it to the Super Bowl, and we haven't
Yeah.
seen that in our lifetimes.
No. So
I wasn't born in '76; I was born in '85.
right. So no. So let Ashley know
Good
what would
question,
you do.
Ashley. Good
So
question.
what would you do? What would you do?
You sign them to you franchise tag them, Sam Darnold,
Yeah.
and then you
No.
just keep.
Yeah.
But
No.
then, but then you'd want to franchise tag maybe Danielle Hunter because maybe he has like an incredible season. Not Danielle Hunter, but Harrison Smith. He only got
No.
1 year left. I don't know.
I
Who do
don't
you?
know. But Harrison Smith will stay with the Vikings no matter what until he's ready to hang him up. I'm kind of surprised by that answer of yours. I for sure thought you were either going to say, hey, thanks, take it easy, or hey, you're our guy, we're gonna sign you to a huge deal. I am kind of in the same boat as you. I think if Sam Darnold, which I think he's going to surprise a lot of people, I think he's going to have a better season than a lot of
Yeah,
people anticipate.
I hope
Um,
so. You're saying
but I
he's going to
think
get
if
over
he
four
brings
thousand
you,
yards passing, but
yeah, but I think if you're the Vikings, if you're KOC, if you're Quicey, you have to once if they make it to the playoffs, once they make the playoffs, you have to have a number in mind. Okay. Because I think it's important, very similar to like what I said with Kirk Cousins this upcoming season, which is if he wanted to sign with us, which is what I thought we should have done with him, have a number in mind because obviously if he's making 10 mil right now after going to a Super Bowl, he could, regardless of if it's a good team or not, he could probably get 25 mil somewhere. But I think if you're the Vikings and you're smart, you would go to him and say, look, we'll franchise tag you for a year to kind of 1 more year, kind of let JJ take his time along the process, or have your, hey, this is the most we're willing to sign you for. Then if he stays awesome, great. You have somebody that,
yeah.
JJ take his time. Or you say, all right, we're riding JJ. We're okay losing a couple games
hmm
until he developed. So
It would be
yeah,
one hell of a season, though, to come down to that scenario.
no kidding. Thank you
Hey, I
for
mean,
that.
yeah.
Actually,
Thanks, Ashley. That's a good
that was a good
question.
one. That was a good one. I liked it. So yeah, before I get into it, what about you, my friend? Looking at this Vikings game, the Vikings are currently 1.5 point favorites over the Giants in the season
hmm
opener.
In the
How do you got
Meadowlands.
how do you got this one shaken out, and what do you think is will be the difference maker in this game?
All comes down to Daniel Jones' quarterback play.
Okay.
I don't think he's that great. I mean, honestly, if you put Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones in a room together, they both wouldn't know what to do. So I think they're both like both I want to say I'm sorry, they're both mediocre quarterbacks. So
No, that's fair.
and since we're playing in New York, Daniel Jones is not he's not great. And if Sam Darnold has a lot to prove. He wants to prove something. So it'd be nice if the Vikings showed up, against the Giants, ready to play. Unlike last season at home when they played against Tampa for the first game of the season, they were
That was a
Baker
heartbreak.
Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield was kind of in Sam Darnold's boat this year. So
But it
Baker
wasn't
kind of
just his
didn't.
arm. Baker Mayfield was running all over our asses last year too, which is just insane to
We could
think of.
scramble outside the pocket a little bit. So they don't have Saquon Barkley anymore. So that's a loss.
That's a big component for
I
you.
think Devin Singletary is now their starting running back. I'm
He's
Out
old.
of Houston. I think he's like 27, 28, I believe. But
He repeats.
I just always see the Giants as like a mediocre football team. Even when like Eli Manning was, the quarterback, they're just. I've always thought of the Giants as a basic team.
Yeah.
Because it's still. I know it's gonna hurt your ears a little bit. It still boggles my mind that the Vikings lost 41 to nothing in the NFC title game in 2000. It still boggles my mind.
Yeah. Wait.
No, to the Giants. That's who the Vikings are playing.
Yeah. No. When was that game?
2000. Oh, dude, we're talking 20.
Oh, I
We're
thought you were
talking
talking
moons ago.
recently.
That's how
No, I
mediocre I
think
always
we're
seen the
talking about different
Giants.
games.
No,
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I'm
Got
going
it. Got
way blast of the past. But they've always had like decent teams, solid defenses, but nothing like, wow, the Giants are scary. It's just like
it. Yeah.
somehow they pull out the victories, like they did against the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs, and they've done it to the Vikings a couple times. So
Yeah.
just show up to play. Week 1, Aaron Jones, tie your shoes, get ready to play. Justin Jefferson,
Get
you
ready to
know,
go.
make some more incredible catches, and Sam Darnold just pin precision pass your point your passes and just
Go through
execute.
your reads. No, I
So,
like it.
but
I
I'm
like it.
excited about that Vikings defense. I think they're gonna be surprising people, and I feel
I
like
know.
it could easily be a top 10 defense in the NFL.
No doubt. I can't help but agree with a lot of what you said, kind of getting ready for the podcast too. I think, like three facets of the game, and kind of for me, comparing the Vikings, the Giants, and two of them are kind of very, very different. And the third one kind of is a difference maker for me. So they're both teams that beefed up their defense.
Hmm.
You know, I think I know what you're talking about, that they've never really been known as like a big defensive team. But I think if you look at the names on both our defense and their defense, talent wise and on paper, they should both be top defense. This is just a matter of, are you going to make the plays and that kind of stuff. I think Brian Flores is a better defensive coordinator than crap. I knew his name before. I'm blanking, before their defensive coordinator. So they're similar in that facet. And then they're
I know his
very
name.
similar with quarterback, like you talked about their quarterback position. Coming into this season, Daniel Jones is coming off an ACL tear, and there's a lot of questions about how he's going to play. There's a lot of questions how Sam Darnold is
Hmm.
going to. Is he going to take advantage of his weapons? Which leads me into the third facet, and that's the weapons,
Hmm.
right? Daniel Jones has Malik Neighbors. I am of the mindset, if you're the Vikings, if you shut down Malik Neighbors, you win that game. You win that game.
Yeah, but he's also that's his first game. I mean, he's a rookie, so it's
No
more
doubt.
along the
But I
like
think,
like where's Jalen Hyatt? Where was he the last couple of years? I've had him on my fantasy team, and he's not. He was a really good wide receiver for Tennessee for the Volunteers in college, and they drafted him, I believe, in the first round. And I don't know, maybe he would be the one to watch out for. But I feel like the Vikings have the most weapons, and I would imagine that Jordan Addison is going to be playing, so you'll have him,
oh yeah,
you'll
no, he's
have Jefferson,
a
Aaron Jones is ready to play, Hawkinson is out for another couple weeks
couple
possibly,
weeks. I think 4, maybe 5.
but I don't know.
Because
I think the Vikings should be ready to play. It's a noon start. Anything can happen.
one of the things I kind of like too, I unfortunately didn't think about this until now, so I don't have numbers to back it up, but the Vikings they typically do very well in noon games as opposed to afternoon games, primetime games, early games, all those kinds of things too. So that's another thing to look at.
I'm ready for a Stephon Gilmore interception. If not that, it's
Yeah,
gonna be from Cam. It's gonna be from Cam Bynum,
no kidding.
one of
And
his
honestly,
seven.
No kidding, and honestly, I talked about that a little bit after we signed him too, you know, and I like the signing, not necessarily because of, like, how good he is, because I think a lot of people said like, when you talk about Stephon Gilmore, that's a guy that won a ring with Tom Brady, right?
Hmm.
Years ago. He's
He's only
clearly
30, and he's only 30 years old too, as well.
right.
So he's
Well well, and he's older on the scheme of
well,
defensive backs and as far as, like, professional sports age goes, and he's probably lost a little bit of a step, but I think for guys like Cam Bynum, Blackman, some of these young defensive backs, just to have a guy, like because as great and as much as I love Harrison Smith, he's more of like a safety, so to have a true defensive back in that room for these young guys to just kind of soak up and
yeah,
take steps, I think he's going to be a great addition. I don't necessarily need him to do these crazy numbers. I just want him to do his job and
make
help me.
everybody else be better out in the
Yeah,
secondary. And I
yeah.
think that's why I think they signed him, because he is a threat in the secondary, but I feel like he's going to make everybody else better, and that's the important thing.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, with that, so like I said, Vikings 1.5 point favorites. Hit that, hammer that money line, hammer that
Let's
favorite.
get a,
I got us winning this one, 24-14.
let's get a game-winning field goal by the rookie kicker, Will Reichert. Let's go.
Okay, you got it, a 3 point game. Okay. Hey, and it could be. I mean, it's
Yeah,
very much first game of the season. Malik Neighbors' first game. It'll be Sam Darnold's first real game with all the starters, and I still think Tyler Hawkinson or TJ Hawkinson is obviously a top tier tight end, so to not have him. But I think Johnny Munt,
Johnny Munt.
Oliver, that Nick Muse, like they're serviceable tight ends. It's not a very popular opinion, but I'm of the nature that you're always going to have your top 3, 5 tight ends. Mark Andrews, Kelsey, Goddard, and oh, I'm missing somebody.
Well, we got Brock Bowers coming out now.
Brock Bowers, and maybe Kyle
Hmm.
Pitts, like those 5
But
guys.
you forgot about Sam Laporta, though. Sam Laporta.
Yeah, and maybe Sam
Hmm.
Laporta. After that, tight ends 6 to 32, because there's 32 teams in the
Mm-hmm.
league, are pretty much interchangeable, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And even those top tier tight ends, they're probably only averaging fantasy point wise, they're only averaging probably 1.5 to 4, no, 1.5 to like 3 points a game more. So it's not like they're head and shoulders,
Yeah.
better than everybody else. So I just, tight ends, I respect good tight ends, but I think they're a dime a dozen. I think everybody talks about, oh, Johnny Munt. It's like, look, they're
Yeah.
just as good as anybody
But
else.
here's the deal, because last season the Vikings running game was absolutely atrocious. Like when they didn't re-sign Dalvin Cook and they had Alexander
Okay, that was
Madison as
smart.
their
I
starting
stood
running
by that.
back and Ty Chandler, it was broken. Like we would hand the ball off to Madison, gain 2 yards, hand it off again, gain 2 yards. Like there was no motion in the offense. There was no 7 to 10 yard gains. No, it was a struggle. So with Aaron Jones, that's going to be very helpful when
Mhm.
Aaron Jones wants to play for the Vikings offense.
But I think he wants to play.
So
I
keep
think
him happy. Keep him happy. Get him involved in the game. It's going to be nice for him to do little sweep outs, and Darnold can just dump it over to him and let
yeah,
him fly. Aaron Jones is still a solid running back, and hope for good things with them this season.
no doubt. No, I like it. I think it was a good signing. I actually saw earlier today Aaron Jones was quoted. Somebody asked him, "This is the best he's felt coming into a season since he came into the league."
That's a good sign.
He could be blowing smoke up our asses, but I think,
Well, that's a good
regardless,
sign.
again, I think this is a guy that wants to be here. Um, I've heard so many times from so many different players that get re-signed or that get signed by us from other teams. And, these report cards come out year after year. And I think the way the Vikings organization treats their players' families, I think the facilities, I think the people they have in their house, I'm not saying this because it's my team, but you look at these report cards that come out that are voted on by the players, we are religiously A pluses, A's,
Mm-hmm.
A, maybe a B plus in there. So I think, as long as you're not a diva, Stephon Diggs, I'm looking at you. This is a place players want to be.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good season. Before we get into our week 1 picks for you guys, I can't remember if I mentioned this to you or not. I always do in-game predictions. So I do an offensive bold prediction and defensive bold prediction. So I will drop mine if you need time to think of yours. Offensive side of things, I'm going to stick with our guy Aaron Jones. I think he kicks off this Minnesota Vikings part of his career with over at least 100-yard rushing game.
And we didn't even have one last year, I don't think.
No, not a single one.
No.
And there's a reason I left defense second to for the last. This defense this year, like you said earlier, is going to turn some heads.
It's going to be a
This
solid defense.
is going to sack Daniel Jones 6 times.
6.
That's what I got. That's what I got.
Ooh. Offense, I feel like this is going to be JJ's time to shine. I think he can go for 7 catches, 160 yards, and a couple touchdowns on the offensive side.
And again, not to go down a rabbit hole before you give your defensive prediction. We've talked about this on end. Like JJ is very much a guy that doesn't need a Tom Brady throwing the ball 70 yards down the field for him. He is year after year one of the top guys in yards after the catch. You just get the ball in the guy's hands. He knows how to make people miss, and he's just crafty.
Defensive side.
It's your
Is your cousin Blake Cashman? Blake.
From what I've heard, yes.
Because if he is, he'll have 8 tackles, 2 for losses, and a sack. I know he's not your cousin.
I like it. We're probably related
somehow related.
Somehow related. But no, I like it. You heard it here first. Do you want to go first with your picks for the NFL, or do you want me to go first?
Are we doing is that the parlay, or are we going to every single game for week 1?
No, just a parlay. Is there a lock that you like? Is there an upset you like?
Yeah, so I do like the Browns over the Cowboys. Feel like something about Deshaun Watson, something about the Cleveland Browns, and Amari Cooper. I don't know.
Okay.
And I feel like Dallas can come out flat.
Okay.
I mean, isn't Zeke their starting running back again? Are they trying to turn back the clock? I thought we weren't going back, Jack. But yeah, right. So I'll take the Browns over the Cowboys.
Okay. What's that line look like?
They have Cleveland minus 2.5.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a pretty close game then.
I'm
not on the Cleveland train this year, so
it's in Cleveland, so that makes sense.
Okay. So they're not even giving Cleveland home field advantage. Because home field advantage is essentially +3.
Right? Is that?
That's crazy.
Either way, that's yeah. Yeah, they're
all right. Minus.
It's in Cleveland. It's in Cleveland. So I got that.
Okay.
And then as far as another pick here, I'm excited for football. The Commanders against the Buccaneers. Jaden Daniels' debut against Baker Mayfield.
Who's the favorite?
Tampa Bay is minus 3.5.
Okay.
So that's in Tampa. Go Commies! Let's go. I'll take that one.
Two
upsets.
I like it.
2 upsets.
I like it. And
then Philadelphia is minus 2.5 against Green Bay. I'll take the Packers.
I like it. We could the underdogs for you.
Why not?
If you like them, why not?
Why not?
And then you said, you said earlier Vikings beat the Giants by 3.
Yeah, Will Riker field goal.
I like it.
Put that as your parlay and smoke it. We'll see what happens.
My lock for you guys this week, I like Cincinnati. The line has mysteriously come down for some reason. So when I first looked at the lines, it's Wednesday, yesterday, it was Cincinnati was 9.5 point favorites. Earlier this morning on Wednesday, it was 9. Before we came on, they're 8 point favorites over New England, and I'd be surprised if this game wasn't a double score lead. I think the Bengals will handle the New England Patriots 31-14. I think
Ooh,
Joe
Molly, that's a mollywop.
I think Joe Daddy is going to come back. Um, he's going to have a great
Yeah,
year.
I'm hoping Joe Burrow does have a solid season. I hope
I
Jamar Chase. I hope they build that connection like they did a couple of years ago,
and I
3
think they
years
will.
ago now.
I think Cincinnati last year had a very subpar year in due because Joe Burrow got injured. I
Mm.
think Joe Burrow's healthy. I think he's going to have kind of like a revenge, hey, I'm back kind of a game. I think Jamar is looking for his boy to come back and throw to him, have that confidence, have that connection
Hmm.
again. And I think they go off and win 31-14. And then for my upset, I like Denver as 5.5 point underdogs over Seattle. Look, I Seattle was a pretty good team last year. I think part of the reason they were the team they were was because they had Pete Carroll. And I think when you have a coach like that around your locker room, it just, it guarantees you X amount of wins. Like it just helps that much more.
No love for Gino.
As much as I love Gino, and I do
No.
like it, I I kind of like that he kind of burst on the scene, kind of like a Sam Darnold last year. Wasn't a whole lot expected of him from his first full season
Hmm.
being their starter, and he went off. He had a great
Yeah.
season. Unfortunately, there were a lot of other quarterbacks that just did a little bit better than him. That he wasn't. I don't think he really got the attention he deserved. Um, but I think the new management and everything like that, it's going to be a little bit different now.
And Broncos have Bo Nix as a starting quarterback.
Bo Nix, I do like him. Hate Sean Payton. Always have, always will. But god damn it, that guy just knows how to. I mean, you look at him and Drew Brees. He knows how to groom these quarterbacks, and
Yeah, I
well,
actually wanted the Vikings to grab Bo Nix when he was available, but that's another story. We could talk about that at the end of the season, doing our quarterback evaluations, and let's let the
right.
season play out.
Well, because you said that, all I'm gonna say is I'm glad we did. And I'm glad we got JJ.
Yeah, see?
But yeah, very similar to the bet I had for you guys earlier. This is another. It's the exact same. $100 to win 596.84 10 59.68 etc etc. If you do Cincinnati -8, Denver +5.5, and Vikings -1.5, we said. And then yeah, before we wrap up, my esteemed colleague reminded me it's a good idea to kind of end with this. So we officially have everything in place for our, what's it called, Sam?
Pick'ems.
Pick'ems. Yep, go sign up for the Pick'ems if you haven't already done that. The link will be in the description in the Instagram video, Instagram post, and the YouTube post. So go sign up for that free of charge. Get a chance to win some mini weekend merch. The more people that
Get this slick looking hat. Get this nice little T-shirt and
just
support the brand.
just like we've done the last couple of years, the more people that sign up, the more
The
people will
bigger the
pay off
pool.
merch and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. So we got that. But then just earlier today, I know I probably sounded like a broken record the last couple weeks, kind of teasing you guys with this first touchdown challenge thing, but it's official. I got a Venmo account set up. So anytime between now and 11:45 on Sunday, all you have to do, go onto Venmo, look up The Mini Weekend, TheInnYweekend. I'll put the handle in the video for people that are interested too. $5. No more, no less. Everything's private. And then where you would put, if you're sending something to Sam or me, where you'd put for pizza for Vikings games, say who you think's going to get the touchdown. You can say Malik Neighbors rushing yard, a rushing touchdown. You could say Aaron Jones receiving touchdown, and that's literally all you have to do. After the first touchdown is scored, the person or persons that got it correctly will split that pot for the week. But the catch is if, let's say, Cam Bynum got the pick six and nobody picked Cam Bynum, and we had 20 people that did it, that's
Rolls
$100
into the next week.
that rolls in. You said
Rolls
yes,
into the next week.
rolls in next week. So super excited to be doing this. Should be fun. I actually did something similar to this with a friend a couple years ago, and it's fun. I think, if nothing else, it's another way to keep kind of people engaged. I think it should be fun. I actually had another question on this because I've been talking about it the last couple of weeks, and Lindsay wants to know, I'm not reading it off exactly, but she essentially wanted to know, can I put in Daniel Jones passing touchdown or Sam Darnold passing touchdown? And technically, techni- te-
Technicality.
technically you can. If I
But
were
who's
you,
he going to throw it to, and do they catch the ball? Like, it's got to be the
that's the
passing
thing.
connection.
That's
It's
the
got to be the
thing.
love connection.
Exactly. So that's
Yeah.
why I wanted to clarify and bring this up. You technically can, but the point of this is to not only be right, but also kind of be original. Because let's not kid ourselves. If there's $500 in the pot and 250 people guess, or I don't know, 100 people guess JJ receiving touchdown, all those 100 people get that money. Now, I understand people want to be right.
Yeah.
If
That's
you're
there's got to be some technicalities on it. Because I'm thinking about
exactly
like
so,
what
so
if
the
Sam
thing about
Darnold?
this,
Sorry to
if
interrupt.
you do Sam Darnold passing touchdown and Jordan Addison gets the first receiving touchdown, technically everybody that guessed Sam Darnold passing touchdown or Jordan Addison passing touchdown would win that pot. So, yes, technically you can. I would recommend not doing it. I think it makes it probably a little bit more fun.
More complex.
You could say Daniel Jones a rushing touchdown or Daniel Jones, receiving
Yeah.
touchdown or that. But I think taking, I
I
hope we
feel like
don't.
there's got to be like a 50-yard minimum to be able to pick a quarterback to do the first touchdown. Like if it's an over 50-yard touchdown pass, maybe there's some technicality, but I would just keep it simple and let's focus that on next year. Maybe we get more feedback along the season to how we can improve it to next season, but keep it simple. Just do touchdowns and
No, exactly. Just keep it simple. Again, I want this to be fun for everybody. So I don't want to have to be, a bad guy and have to implement a rule where it's like, okay, a lot of people are complaining. Please don't put in, passing touchdown from the opposing quarterback or passing touchdown for
yeah.
our
Just
quarterback.
gotta be a little disclaimer in there.
Let's have some fun. You technically can, but I don't think people like if you're guessing Nick Muse gets the first passing touch or the receiving touchdown and the pot's $250, that guy is
Correct.
gonna want the $250. You don't want to have to be like, why am I only getting 125? Oh, some idiot, decided to do. But again, neither here nor there.
Well,
Technically, yes, you can.
it's
I
all
would
good. Football's here, man. We are here. Football's here.
exactly. We're gonna have fun. It's gonna be a good season. And yeah. Any last words, Sam?
I'm just hey, buckle up. Buckle up for a fun season, and hopefully it would be nice if the Minnesota Twins would ride along with us heading into October as well. But we'll get
Yeah.
into a different podcast at some
No
point
kidding. We can
with
only
that.
hope.
But hey, they're still if they started tomorrow, they're in the playoffs. So
Exactly. No, but I
nothing
like
else
that.
fancy.
I like that though. Buckle
So
up. Until
buckle up.
next time, Minnie.
But woo.